What I want to talk to you guys tonight about is something that is going to affect all of us, either now or in the future. It's to do with our jobs. It's to do with the organisations that we're in. And I want to start by asking a question. What happens when your model of service is under threat? And what I mean by that, because I know there's cafes that compete with cafes, there's universities that compete with universities, there's hospitals that compete with hospitals, there's accountants that compete with accountants. But what happens when your whole industry is under threat? What happens when you're, say, a newspaper company and you're the best in the industry and readership globally drops 4% every year? What happens when you're a bricks and mortar bookseller and all of a sudden the internet and online platforms starting to threaten your whole model of business? What happens when you're an accountant and technology, payment systems change? What happens when you're a travel agent and you've invested your whole life becoming a travel agent, and that is your expertise, that's what you bring to the party, that's what you've trained in and what you plan to deliver for the rest of your life? And then all of a sudden the internet changes the whole game and people don't want to so much go to travel agents. What happens? Because it'd be nice if it was just left at that theoretical level of strategy and it was just businesses versus business and you could let it kind of go and let the world roll on. But the reality, it doesn't stop there. Because it's about our jobs. It is about organisations, it's about expertise that we pour our passion in, we pour our time into. It's about, at the end of the day, our security, our families, our futures. So it's a reasonably significant issue, I think. So I think it's worth exploring. And to do that, because one of the things that doesn't really make so much sense to me is that there's some incredibly smart people and organisations out there that are getting outmanoeuvred consistently. New industries, new business types that are starting up and outmanoeuvring successful ones. So what is going on here? So I want to use this quote to bring a little bit more clarity on what the situation is. Gary Hamel, the longer you're down in the trenches, the easier it is to mistake the edge of your rut for the horizon. Okay. See, the problem with business is that the more and more we optimize, the more and more we develop our organisations, the more and more we compete with other organisations in our industries or other businesses within our business type, the more and more we leverage our assets, the more and more we get locked into our model of service. It's just implied. Now, what I'm suggesting is that there's hope, that you do not need to stay in your trench. But let's just look at that, because wait a minute, Matt, what are you saying? Are you saying that we need to totally get out of our trench? I mean, I've been in a university or I've been in a cafe, a restaurant. Are you saying we need to cut our losses and get out of here and retrench somewhere else in a total different business model? Now, that's not what I'm saying, because there's something quite valuable in terms of, if we talk about what you have been building in terms of this trench, there's something quite valuable that can be missed, and I want to kind of reveal tonight as your most valuable asset that you're building as an organisation. So let's look at that. Let's look at what you're building. Let's look at this trench. I'm going to run through a few assets. What we think we're building as an organisation. I hope to kind of reframe your understanding of what is the value that you're building as an organisation. Firstly, there's people out there who will say, people are our greatest asset. And I believe them. I believe that people are incredibly valuable. I mean, people bring creativity, people bring problem solving, people bring insight, people bring passion, and people are dynamic. They're incredibly valuable for an organisation. But in terms of, we're talking the future here. We're talking about moving beyond a trench, a model of service. Now, the only problem with people is that when organisations start, as Gary Hamel would say actually as well, organisations are birthed from a vision of a new type of venture. Now, vision gets translated into strategy because you need strategy to implement the vision. Strategies get organised into policies so that you can implement the strategy, and then policies get converted into habits, and habits lock people in. So all these people that we've got in our organisation are just as locked in as we are. So if we're thinking about using these guys to charge out of the trenches in terms of reimagining, rethinking, or redoing. We were talking before about freemium models, remodeling our organisation. These guys are going to be just as confused as we are, so please don't do that. People. I'm going to move on a few more. Product. What about our product? Some people would say our product is our organisation, is our business. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have a business. Now, for the future, all we need to do is leverage our product, incremental improvements. Now, that's okay, unless you're like an abacus creator. And these guys are stuck in like making faster moving little beads and gold-plated abacuses. Never mind calculators. We've got our abacus. The problem with product is success now doesn't mean success in the future. So I don't believe that is our most valuable asset for the future. What about our service? Especially in more competitive industries or business types, and you've got pretty much the same product, we can say, well, we differentiate ourselves on our people, the way in which we deliver our products. The only problem with that is that anyone can deliver a product well. And if that's all we're kind of banking on when we're jumping out of this trench to retrench again, good luck. So I think that if we just bank on service in terms of the way we deliver, there's more valuable asset that we're building than that. What about our brand? What about what we've built as an organisation, as an institution, in terms of what people know, what people trust? Yes, a brand is incredibly valuable. All these things are incredibly valuable. All we're talking about at the moment is what we need to make that first move. A brand, the only challenge with that is a brand is often an articulation based on the problem and the solution now. Okay? And we only need to look back in history in terms of some institutions that have been in days gone by to know that some brands get tired and some brands lose the edge. So when we're looking at maybe re-understanding the world game is changing. A brand is not always the best thing to serve us. Well, if not these external things, what about internal? What about all the work and energy and effort we've put into building our infrastructure, systems, our processes, our ways of doing things? And while I believe it's very valuable to invest in these things, to hone these things, the system of delivery, I don't need to convince you guys in terms of that's not really something that's going to propel us into the future. A lot of people would, as you know, this is the way we've always done it, can be one of the biggest barriers of remodeling or doing things differently. So, not infrastructure. And finally, we'll stop shooting ducks out of the air soon. Your network. As we know, a lot of the time in business, it's not so much about what we know, it's who we know. And to be able to pick up the phone and set up a new type of business, get advice, is incredibly valuable. But the only challenge, coming back to the people thing, a lot of the people that are on the end of the telephone can be just as locked into the way things are now, in terms of the way the world works, or the way businesses are, as we are. So again, incredibly valuable once maybe down the track, like all these things are, but getting out of our trench, I think there's a more valuable asset. So, with that in mind, what is it, Matt? What do you think it is? Your most valuable asset for the future is your insight into the problem your organisation exists to solve. Okay? Now, you do not need to be a decision maker in your organisation to work on this asset. I just want to let this kind of sit and let you kind of digest this a little bit, because it's not as tangible as some of the assets that we can think of in terms of what our business is about. It's insight. The question becomes, okay, if insight is an asset, Matt, how do we build that? And this is the idea. This next slide is the idea I want you to kind of take home. I want you to digest. I want you to think of, because all of us can be shapers of the organisations of the future. And I want you to get this in there. The future is inside the people you serve. Okay? It is inside the people you serve. Now, the good thing is that these people are right in front of you. You're dealing with these people. You're serving these people already. You're helping these people. You can be, and it actually is an advantage to be on the front lines. You don't need to be in executive management. Kind of helps because you can make the decisions there, but you can influence, and many people do, influence organisations from a vantage point of being right in front of the people that we're serving. So the good thing is they're right in front of us. The problem is that they can't articulate the future. They can't communicate us to it. They can't communicate the future to us explicitly. So we've got to figure it out. Now, I know there's traditional market research tools which are valuable, but this challenge requires better tools, or more tools, more specifically. In terms of the how of getting the inside of people out, in terms of defining, okay, how can we serve them better in the future? I'll just flag some issues like ethnography, that sphere, about understanding why people do what they do. Because as we know, what people say and what people do can be totally different things. You can have all the stats and reports to back up that a new business is going to work, but you're only going to find out when they actually do it. And I've found from my work that it is often a disparity. But you can learn a lot by watching more than asking. There's plenty of methods out there. Just look at some of the leading innovators in the world. IDEO, for example, Frog Design, both in the Silicon Valley. They are, you look at their website, innovation through insight. This is where things are developing. People are trying to find more tools, more methods, more ways of getting the inside of people out. And they're reshaping whole industries. Okay? And like I say, anyone can do this. You can be in any part of the organisation. All you need to do is get enough evidence to show the organisation that the assumptions on which it was built have changed. The game has changed, and the game always does. The goal here is to try and serve people better than your industry does. Okay? But I guess that leads us to the question, do we want to? We spend a lot of time building the processes we have, building the products and services we have, building the brand. This is the way we do things. Do we actually want to change? And the only thought I have on that is that someone will. Okay? The world's not going to stay static. Someone will. So let's look just at a few examples of what some companies are doing around the world. Redefining the problem. A lot of times we're so focused on optimizing a solution that we forget about that enhancing our understanding of the problem is, I would say, even more valuable. Examples we used before, newspapers. Globally, it's a big problem. Newspaper companies are trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. Local. There's an example of a local company, Allied Press, ODT. They recently launched an entirely new venture to the newspaper industry. They, instead of saying, well, let's just develop another newspaper, they went out and they decided, well, let's think of ourselves as an information provider, and let's look at what information people want, how they share it, how they consume it. And based on that insight, they created this new venture called Limited, which is an organisation, was a new venture around limited time deals, which is giving people information. It short-circuited the whole business model of a newspaper. Newspapers, as we know, make money on advertising, and this is this advertising. And what kind of newspaper in their right mind throws out the editorial? So these guys have totally revamped themselves and created a solution in the newspaper space. What about another one? Booksellers. We know Amazon, as you all know. The insight that people, there's more to buy in a book, or there's more to value of what bricks and mortar booksellers can offer in terms of delivery, how fast people want books, and also the range in which people want. It's bigger than a normal brick and mortar bookseller can offer. So through the online platform and this new venture, Amazon, which started a wee while ago now, they, through a deeper and richer understanding of the problem, delivered a solution that is just continuing to grow now, and it is now starting to beat the whole bookseller industry. And a final one, travel agents. Now, the insight here is that people would rather hear information about a place that they're going from the travellers like them who have been there, rather than the keeper of knowledge. TripAdvisor is set up as a review-based site and now has millions and millions of people every week looking at this thing, using it to help them travel and make the most of their time in other countries. So, 3 examples. Now, I want to leave you just with one question. wherever you are in your organisation, if you are on the front lines, you're right in front of the people you serve, or you're a decision maker, how much resource or time are you putting into building the asset of insight compared to the other assets of your organisation? How much time? Is it valuable enough to you to explore the different tools of actually getting the insight of what people need or want, or how you could actually serve them better than not only your company could, but your whole industry? Because there are people out there that are. And finally, I just want to say you'll need it for the future. You'll need that asset of insight for the future because the game is changing. But remember that the future is right in front of you. Thank you.